as we do during streamathons, you guys get to elect dumb things for me to do. We do fun giveaways, right? We're giving away a golem right after this. But we also have what we like to call tortures. Mrs. Tomato and you all in the Discord pick a bunch of things for me to do as we reach goals during the streamathon. And one of the final goals we had was that I have to go back and listen to one of my first videos with y'all. So this is a video from July 1st, 2019. This must have been like one of the actual first videos I ever made. And this was kind of what got the whole channel started. Funny enough, I started making YouTube videos because I felt like the information coming out about Star Citizen was not providing context on YouTube. It was news, but it wouldn't really give you an idea of how far the game was actually coming, because there was no references to what was going on a year ago or 2 years ago or back in the day. That's why this whole channel, all we do is like go back and look at past stuff. It's where I wanted to start out. So I started this series called Retrospectives. It was basically just I go back and look at the videos that they released 1 year prior inside Star Citizen, or at that time around the verse, and calling all devs. And we would listen to what they talked about and then look at where it was at this point during that time. So comparing 1 year ago to today. Now, I think that would be a lot more interesting because they actually are moving faster than they were back then. But back then, I think I was kind of scraping the barrel. So I'm not sure how this is going to go. This could be real frustrating to watch. But you know what? That's what we're here for. Let's get into it. Oh, my voice is going to be so bad. Why did you have to pick this? Why did you have to pick video so long ago?
Hey, thanks for joining in for this.
Oh my God, what is that microphone quality? Wait, I remember the microphone I was using for this. It was like this tiny little, it was like a $5 mic. I kid you guys not. Just bought it off some random online web
Star Citizen
store in Turkey.
Retrospective. You can call me Space Tomato. This is going to be the first of my series of tomato talks, which I hope will help some people learn more about Star Citizen.
Already coining the phrase tomato talks.
Now, what I'd like to do with this retrospective series is take a look at the big features we were covering a year ago and see where they are today, whether they are above and beyond or they've completely missed the mark. I think it's good to maintain some perspective in terms of the progress we are making or the lack thereof. This is something I want to try and cover every 2 weeks, and I'm not going to be going over every single thing that's talked about, but I am going to be taking a look at all the biggest features that are discussed. So without dragging this intro
it
on
literally took me 2 weeks to make a video, and this was like, now we're doing streams and Space Tomato 2 and podcasts and videos. This was the only thing I was doing Space Tomato related, and it took me 2 weeks to make every video. I never thought, I just did not think we were gonna go very far from there.
Let's get started.
I'm very glad it improved the delivery.
On June 18th of 2018, we had a Calling All Devs episode which focused on in-game ship rentals and purchases, as well as insurance timers. The first question I'm covering
The
was
freaking audio balancing and the way that the music automatically ducks during this video, so you can hear if I stop for just a little too long, it starts to come back up, and then I start talking again and it drops down, and it's just... I remember that.
regarding
That's
the
funny.
possibility of purchasing ships in Alpha 3.2 or 3.3. Todd Pappy gave us the answer that the team is working on getting this possibility into the game for 3.3, which they did complete. Since 3.3, we've been able to purchase ships in-game. The catalog has not been large, and it is being expanded in this upcoming patch of 3.6, but purchases were there and are now available via kiosk. 0.6, but purchases were there and are now available via kiosk.
That's totally an extra dub. He went back and recorded that.
Rentals still are not in game. However, they are currently scheduled to be released in a delayed state in a 3.6.x patch.
Look at this.
Within the next
we couldn't even rent ships at the time I was making this video.
couple of months. Personally, I'm very excited for ship rentals. I do not grind that much to make money, so the cheaper prices are going to be much more interesting to me.
Shut up,
hoping
man.
to be able to fly more ships and try more things out.
Nah, shut up. I don't rent
Now, there
any
were
ships.
a couple other questions in this episode of Calling All Devs, but none of them really pertain to the main focus of this video, so we're going to go ahead and move on. Jumping forward to an episode of Around the Verse on June 21st, we got to see our first implementations of planetary mining. We got to hear some of the sound effects, see how it worked, the spread of the rocks. Not bad. It wasn't bad at all for our first implementation. Since then, we've seen some improvements. We've seen added animations, we've seen changes in the UI as well as controls. We've also heard changed sound effects.
Extraction mode on.
Still
Besides
know those
these
sound
little
effects.
improvements, we really haven't seen any big developmental leaps when it comes to mining since 3.2. We haven't seen anything that has to do with the Orion, which is our large mining ships, and we also don't know anything about refineries or refining minerals. There are improvements coming in 3.6 regarding the returns of UEC you'll get for mined minerals versus purchased minerals, but besides that, mining's on the back burner, so we
Dang.
haven't seen much improvement.
It's a lot of
That
custom
is
work on
to
this
be
video.
expected, as most of the gameplay loops, including salvage and exploration and repair, have been pushed back on the roadmap again and again to make room, supposedly, for more development in the networking and AI aspects as well.
No, people be like, "Hey, this dude's way too positive." Literally, first video I put out on YouTube, and I'm out here being like, "Yeah, supposedly." Good job, 2019
Well as
tomato.
for Squadron 42, so we haven't really been expecting much production in those areas, but it's not a great feeling to not see it. Next up in that episode of Around the Verse, we got to see some of the weather effects and how the wind would be affecting the trees on Hurston. Not much has been done with that since then. It's still pretty much the same as when it was implemented, but I'm looking forward to seeing some of the updated weather patterns, hopefully for
White knighting
Microtech
so hard,
and
dude.
most definitely for Crusader with the Cloud Tech coming online.
Oh.
That being said, we got to see some impressive windstorms.
Just a little bit of beating up the microphone.
Coming online. That being said, we got to see some impressive windstorms in the Homestead CitizenCon demo, and I'm hoping that we get to see more of that soon enough.
Oh, dude, no. 6 years. 6 years. Then you'll see it.
After that, we got a quick look at the group system, which made it easier for us to link up with each other in the verse. The group system
God,
has
guys.
seen quite a few improvements over this
We were getting introduced to the group system.
last year, including increases in size, stability, and UI improvements, as well as quantum linking. One of my favorite improvements to the system was the ability for anybody in your group to access your ship while still maintaining the locks to anybody who's outside of your group. This made it a lot harder for people to steal your ship on Port Olisar.
Right. Because it used to be where anybody could just go onto your ship at any time. Right? Oh, man.
And while they might not be the big changes that we were hoping for in the group system, 3.6 does seem to be adding some quality of life improvements, including making separate comm channels and being able to name them, seeing who's speaking on any given comm channel, and getting ship-wide comms for any ship that you might be in, which is especially nice for the 890 jump big boy who's joining the game in a couple of months.
The 890 jump big boy. You know, I think I would probably still say that too. Too bad the voice comms don't work though, dude. Oh man, this is
Wrapping
funny.
up around the verse, we get to move forward into Calling All Devs, June 25th of 2018. The very first question right off the bat is pertaining to attachments for FPS weapons. That which is actually quite contextually important right now, as we're seeing some development in that in Alpha 3.6.
Nice. We're gonna get our first scopes, guys.
Now, at the time, weapon attachments was being delayed. According to Nicholas
Surprise.
Monk, the delay was because the system was implemented. However, the assets, the scopes, the stocks, the barrels, there were no in-game capabilities for players to equip these things. So while developers could create the tie-ins for these assets, the assets simply could not be equipped yet. Now the question was also
Thanks.
expanded for ship components, which had the opposite problem. All of the assets were already created. The devs knew that ship
This was like the very first beginnings of fuses. These little subcomponents, I think, ended up turning into fuses at some point.
components were going to be made to be customizable and swappable since 3.0. However, the system wasn't ready to handle those assets yet, so that simply wasn't implemented, and we
2019, the systems weren't ready. It's like the story of that whole period of development.
still don't see that possibility in the game yet. I had actually expected to see swappable components in the Terabin already at this point, but it's still not here. So as of 3.6, weapon attachments have actually seen a big improvement. However, ship components, while they've seen additions of heat and damage and degradation, are still not customizable or swappable in person. You can swap these components out via the vehicle tab on your Mobiglass or while you're purchasing these components at the store. But as far as actually picking them up and taking them out of the ship, you can't do that. Sorry. Can't steal the power plant of that Caterpillar. Although I think the Caterpillar's power plant is too big, so don't try it anyways.
You freaking nerd. It is. But we can do that now. Thank God.
Now, the next question that was asked on this episode of Calling All Devs had to do with the difference between griefing and pirating.
Oh my
While
God. Whoa. Honey, I can hear the call to prayer in this video. You guys hear that? Hold up. Wait, I got to turn that up. I can freaking hear the call to prayer in the background. I can't believe it.
This episode of Calling All Devs had to do with the difference between griefing and pirating. While griefing is a big
Listen to this. Listen. Oh my God, that is so funny.
Now, the next question that was asked on this episode of Calling All Devs had to do with the difference between griefing and pirating. While griefing is a big problem in
Did you hear
MMOs, and this is a distinction
Oh,
that
it's really, really faint. It's really faint.
Wait, there's hair on you.
I probably only hear it because I
Yeah,
was
trauma.
traumatized by it.
In 2019, you must have been at my parents'.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was right outside the window. That's pretty funny. You not hearing
it's
it?
usually hard to make in MMOs. Piracy is a very big part of Star Citizen, so they needed to have the systems in place to make it a viable gameplay option. Dan Truffin was confident that they will have the loss system that they need to make this a possibility. However, we haven't seen much besides defensive turrets or security guards at Hurston until 3.6.
What am I most excited about 3.6? Freaking loss systems, bro.
Oh no. Oh no.
With 3.6, we're getting special locations where you can buy and sell materials on the black market, allowing for
The
better
black
gameplay
market.
surrounding illegal items and drugs. We're also getting the first implementation of a law system, which should mark the beginning of the end of people simply ramming your ship on the Port Olisar landing pads or shooting you for no reason with no repercussions. This first implementation of the law system is going to help set up jurisdictions for separate security
The beginning of a very, 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 very long end. We're still midsection of that ending. Hey, we don't get pad rammed, right? Right? It's because they took away the pads.
as well as splitting the difference between a misdemeanor and a felony, so that a parking violation isn't going to get
Picture Kirsty of Star.
you killed like a homicide might. They mentioned this first almost a year ago to the date in Calling All Devs, and now we're finally seeing it in game. Moving on to a special
I just have nothing to say to that.
Squadron 42 episode of Around the Verse on June 28th. We start off with a look at animations. Player animations are supposed to now be driven by entity rather than animation, meaning that when you stop moving, your character stops moving. This is something that you can see in the live game right now.
I don't know if I'm seeing it. I don't know if that was the best representation of what.
This is something that you can see in the live game right now.
Like, I'm just looking at this guy running back and forth. You're not stopping. Space Tomato, you're not.
We then saw player interactions with objects around the game, such as books, bottles, and guns. This is something that was shown off at CitizenCon and then implemented into Alpha 3.4.
Okay.
We then
Okay, so what the reason I enjoyed making these before was because it was like a nice mixture of they did follow through on this and this is in the game and they completely botched this and it's not. And I think that's the story of Star Citizen, but it always just ends up being rather hyperbolic, the conversation. And the whole point of this was just to try and bring some nuance to that conversation. And I don't know if it worked, but at least it led to a YouTube channel.
and saw animations and player carryables, which they've been speaking about improving. We haven't seen that yet, but we do have an update coming in 3.6 that may touch on this. After animations, we took a look at prototyping soft body deformation. This was using standard wall assets and breaking them up to rig them for soft body animations and combining that with the GM Cache Alembic method in order
I took so long to be able to say that in the line, guys. Listen to how goofy I sound when I try to say that term.
soft body animations and combining that with the GM Cache Alembic method.
GM Cache method. It's some weird tech that they are using. I don't know what the heck it was, but that's what the dev said in the video, so I tried to say it as well. Somebody else might know in chat.
In order to use less memory. I expect to see this in Squadron 42 before Star Citizen, which is why it showed up in this Around the Verse. As we have not seen it in the PU, I don't expect to see it anytime soon, but it's something to be excited about. From there, we checked in with the props team, who showed off some of the work being done on Hurston's upcoming biomes. A lot of this work was being done in ZBrush and distributed procedurally around the PU. These are things that we can see in every update, whether it's Hurston or RCorp, a new space station. We'll see it in Microtech upcoming as well, so you can always expect to see work in the props department going on. Last but certainly not least in this update, we had a special episode of Reverse the Verse Live with Chris Roberts, where he talked about 3.6 and some things that he had envisioned for future updates, which is pretty important in this series. Many of you know that the UI in this game needs some work. One of Chris's first statements here was that he wanted to bring some unity between the different modes, including the standard heads up, scanning, or mining. He also wanted to reinforce the idea that
more
they
detail,
do listen to
Space
the
Meadow.
community.
What do you mean by that? Because there is better unity, but what does that mean?
In making changes to things we have problems with. We've seen this with things like the flight model and VTOL, as well as the 890 jump taking design cues from the 600. We also, just a couple days ago, heard that things might be changing for something people have had some problems with. So keep an eye out. It sounds like he's sticking to changing for something people have had some problems with.
Quantum jump times. Ah, yes. Quantum jump times used to be a lot longer. They actually have only gone lower and lower over the years, I think. It used to be a lot longer to get across the system, but I guess also component customization helped with that too.
So keep an eye out. It sounds like he's sticking to that promise. We've seen things like the survey at the beginning of last year that asked us what kind of features we wanted to be implemented, as well as ship surveys to ask us what ships we want next. They do listen to the community, but sometimes it can take up to 6 months to see things get switched around because things are planned so far.
Up to 6 months, dude. Try minimum 6 months. Okay, they can make some faster shifts now, but dudes, you can tell that this guy is a baby, a Star Citizen baby. Got to go through the ringer, buddy.
Far in advance. And we do see quite a few delays when it comes to AI, with no updates coming in 3.6. We haven't seen much over the last year that convinces me that the AI is looking good. There are plenty of job openings on the website that we hope get filled, but for now AI is a little slow developing. So let's hope for more of that in the next year.
Bro. You have no idea.
After that, they talked a bit about how Around the Verse was going to be in flux for a while. And it took a little while, but they finally got inside Star Citizen, the successor to Around the Verse, to somewhere where I think the majority of the community is happy. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. Go ahead and leave a comment and tell me what you think of the new show. Chris then had to answer a difficult question regarding Star Citizen, which is how are they going to get all these systems created with how slow the first one's developing? Of course, most of us have heard the answers to this over the years, but to reiterate, these are tools that are being developed as they build each moon, planet, and system. So as they grow and mature, they hopefully
Hey, look, it's Castra. Cool.
will be able to create every planet even faster. Just last September, they wanted to create all 4 of Hurston's moons within 1 month, and they did complete that goal. So it won't be entirely obvious until maybe next year whether this is working. And while Chris said that he thought we would notice in 2019, I think it's going to take a little longer. So hopefully it does work out. We'll see. Finally,
It did not. At least not yet. I think they're definitely building things a lot faster, and obviously that gets better and better as they add more assets. That's what we talked about earlier today. And also being able to actually have a company that is made to build systems instead of the company back during 2019 when they were absolutely not equipped for it. I think that they definitely are going to need a lot more speed when it comes to the factions. That seems like what's really going to hold them back. You resemble that, Rourke? They're slow developing. Are they, though? They are in terms of the planets and the features around them and the planet tech and stuff is definitely, that's really what this question was about. This is about the planet tech that goes into creating these things. And they've gotten a lot. Well, maybe this was about the whole star system. But I guess at least the way that I'm choosing to answer it is in terms of the planet tech. At least that's the way I take it.
that goal. So it won't be entirely obvious until maybe next year whether this is working. And while Chris said that he thought we would notice in 2019, I think it's going to take a little longer. So hopefully it does work out. We'll see. Finally, Chris answered a question
But to be quite honest, that's where Starchitect comes in, huh? They didn't even know it back then.
about companion AI ships, stating that they might be implemented in 2019. We still haven't seen them halfway through the year, but it's pretty important for Squadron 42, so I would be surprised if we didn't see them within the next 12 months.
Wait, did he say that we were going to have them? Oh my god, that's a
Pretty
straight lie.
important for 2019 about companion AI ships, stating that they might be implemented in 2019.
It might be. Oh, we might see them in we might see them in 2019. We might see them in 2028. We might see them.
We still haven't seen them halfway through the year, but it's pretty important for Squadron 42, so I would be surprised if we didn't see them within the next 12 months. There is an update due for flight AI improvements and polishing in
I'm on life support. Killing me.
Q1 of 2020, so that may be the golden ticket. We'll just have to wait and see. And that just about wraps it up for this first Star Citizen retrospective. Thanks for joining me on this one. I really think it's a good idea to take a look back and just keep track of what kind of progress we're seeing over the
Bro, maybe we should start doing retrospectives from 6 years ago. That was soul hurting.
year. It's easy to forget those little things. There's just so much development. It's easy for things to get lost and for us to forget about things that we thought we were going to get last year and we still haven't seen.
Yeah, them too. Them f***ing too.
Or things that we got and we were not even expecting. I hope to continue this video series and improve it over time, whether that means getting new equipment like a better microphone or adding new features and new footage. So stick with me and maybe you'll see something new.
Stick around.
As
it'll be
always,
okay.
I'd like to thank everybody again for joining me, and if you liked this, please subscribe to see the latest up-to-date video I have. I'll be posting this every 2 weeks, and I hope to see you with the next one. Thanks!
Nice outro, dude. Okay. So, that was my first retrospective. Not my first YouTube video, mind you, but the first one I really put a lot of effort into, I guess. And, oh, what fun that was. Honestly, I'm less embarrassed by my delivery and more by some of the things that I said. God, what a youngin' I was. They've gotten better, I think, at setting expectations than what I seemed to get from that. But I think a large part of that is because they don't have to sell people on the things that are coming as much anymore. And this is only something I think has changed since like last year around 323, 324. And because that was so unstable, it hasn't felt super true until recently when the game has gotten better. But I think they can sell this game more with the stuff that's in the game now, so they don't have to talk about what's coming as much. And that's why our Inside Star Citizens have gotten so freaking boring when it comes to things like what's coming. I mean, that's why all of their content this year has really dropped in caliber in the focus on like feature development. Because I think that stuff is not what they need as much anymore to hype us up. So that's helped. I think also not letting Chris Roberts talk on the microphone has helped. But I'm not going to lie, still painful. There's still plenty of echoes of the stuff that we covered in this video that are true with the
Gameplay
company
loops,
today.
including
From just the expectation setting to the freaking progress tracker and roadmap to things that were even supposed to be kind of in the works back then that are still working now to things that got hype that have not continued their development after that. I think these are things that they've learned from and gotten better at doing in their development, but they still struggle a lot with different things. What is this video? This video's got 557 views. I could put out a video about crackers on this channel now. It wouldn't do better than that. I love that though. I'm gonna have to go back and watch more of these. Look at this, dude. Like custom thoughts and points and timestamps and stuff, man. There were some graphics on here. I was wide-eyed. The first video is... Oh my god! This I was just starting out with like tour guides. And I was very into cinematics when I first started. They did all this in 12 months or so. Hey man, come on. If that were Chris in 2019, he would have put it on the freaking screen. It would have said releasing in 2024, and he would have showed us a demo of all the freaking gameplay working and saying this was a mission that was going to come out. They shouldn't have put Chris on the stage to say that stuff, but it was better than he would have done. There's at least that. I miss Port Olisar, yeah. Port Olisar was sick. This is good times. That's just good times. But yeah, this was the first video. I mean, that was a very different time. A lot of fun to make. Anyways, there's our Streamathon, one of our final goals. Last goal is going to be later this week when I wear the pain simulator, and we'll see how that goes. Oh boy.